Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Tuberville.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General, you've been in your position now, what, less than a year, correct?
4 months, Senator.
4 months. Give us your #1 priority for Space Force.
I need to make sure that the Guardians are ready to meet the threat. I've said this from day one. The systems that we're buying are exquisite. I want to make sure that the Guardians have the training and the ability to practice their trade craft, reps and sets, I call it. We've got to get those into the Guardians so that they validate their tactics and they are trained to meet any adversarial challenge that's thrown at them.
So it's more training and people than it is anything.
There's a lot of challenges. That's what I'm focused on right now because I think it was the biggest gap from converting. I like to use the example that we're trying to turn a merchant marine into the U.S. Navy.
Yeah.
Right? We have to convert this Space Force that we had for a benign environment into one that's contesting the domain.
Is this a slow process?
Sometimes it's slower than I'd like, but I like our progress. So I need to buy them the simulators, the virtual ranges. That takes a little bit of time, but we're already building a new force generation model so that we've established the time to do the training, we've established the new training requirements, and now we just have to get after it.
So Spacecom has a RDT&E budget of $19.2 billion and a proposed procurement budget of only $4.7 billion. What's driving that difference? And you see that change in the next few years?
Sir, this is a way the Space Force has to do its business because so much of our effort is spent in developing the satellites, and we don't have to put a lot of satellites on orbit traditionally, so there's less procurement than there is RDT&E. And so I think it's just the nature of the space business that we are front-loaded a little bit in terms of procurement to RDT&E balance relative to what you might see in some of the other services that buy so many versions of that thing that they do RDT&E for, fighters or tanks or the like. And so even when we go to a proliferated constellation, our numbers will be so much smaller than what the other services have to buy.
Yeah, in your mind, what cybersecurity standards minimum do you think new commercial satellites should have?
I'm worried about the ground infrastructure and how the links are protected to make sure that we have access to those capabilities that are put on orbit. So in commercial terms, I'm a little less worried about the on-orbit cyber protections as much as I am the ground network. And I think those cyber protection standards are well understood, and we can hold the commercial providers accountable for putting cyber defense capabilities onto the ground networks.
I've had several private companies come by my office saying they have a great idea how to take space debris down. Have you talked to quite a few of those?
I have.
What do you think?
I think.
Will we privatize it at the end of the day?
I think there's a lot of different ways to go after that sort of problem. I haven't seen demonstrated capabilities, and I'm always thinking in terms of, it's one thing to have a pitch that says we can do something, it's another to have a demonstrated capability. I'll be honest, we do a lot of serious effort making sure we understand what's on orbit and preventing debris from hitting each other or things that we care about. Right now, I would say this isn't my #1 challenge, but if somebody feels like they can demonstrate a capability, cleaning up debris is an important concept as well.
Because it's going to get worse and worse, right?
It's not going to clean itself up.
Yeah. A lot of people believe the conflict with China could very well start in space. What might that look like one day?
The Chinese and the Russians have gone to school on us over the last 20 years, and they know that we've built a joint force structure that relies heavily on the assumption that space capabilities will be there. Whether it's our precision navigation and timing, whether it's satellite communications, the missile warning that we rely on, and the intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance persistence that we have with space capabilities, they know we rely on that. And so if they can blind us, if they can interfere with those capabilities, or God forbid, destroy them completely, they know that that will diminish our advantages and put the joint force at risk. So I can see interfering with, I can see blinding, I can see some of those gray area kinds of attacks on our capabilities to try to put us behind the 8 ball.
That balloon wasn't in your purview, was it?
No, sir.
60,000 feet?
Well, they call it near space, but I like to call it far air.
Senator Rosen.
Well, thank you, Chairman King and Ranking Member Fisher. Good to be here today. And